The Bible in a Year, Day 59, Numbers 32 through 34. Now the Reubenites and the Gadites had a very large number of livestock. Noticing that the land of Jazer and of Gilead was placed suited to livestock, the Gadites and the Reubenites came to Moses and Eleazar the priest, to the leaders of the community, and said, "The region of Ataroth, Didon, Jazer, Nimram, Heshbon, Elialeh, Sebam, Nebo, and Baal-meon, the land which the Lord has laid before the community of Israel, is a land for livestock, and your servants have livestock." He continued, "If we find favor with you, let this land be given to our servants as their possession. Do not make us cross the Jordan." But Moses answered the Gadites and Reubenites, "Are your kindred then to go to war while you remain here? Why do you wish to discourage the Israelites from crossing to the land the Lord has given them? This is just what your ancestors did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to reconnoiter the land. They went up to the Wadi Eshcol and reconnoitered the land, then so discharged the Israelites that they would not enter the land the Lord had given them. At that time the anger of the Lord flared up, and he swore none of them 20 years old or more who have come up from Egypt will see the land I promised under oath to Abraham and to Isaac and Jacob, because they have not followed me unreservedly, except the Kenizzite Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, and Joshua, son of Nun, since they have followed the Lord unreservedly." So the anger of the Lord flared up against the Israelites, and he made them wander in the wilderness 40 years, until the whole generation that had done evil in the sight of the Lord had disappeared. And now here you are, offspring of sinful stock, rising up in your ancestors' place, and still more to the Lord's blazing anger against the Israelites. If you turn away from following him, he will again abandon them in the wilderness, and you will bring about the ruin of this entire people." But they approached him and said, "We will only build sheepfolds here for our flocks and towns for our families, but we ourselves will march as troops in the vanguard before the Israelites until we have led them into their destination. Meanwhile, our families will remain in the fortified towns because of the land's inhabitants. We will not return to our homes until all the Israelites have taken possession of their heritage. But we will not claim any heritage with them across the Jordan and beyond, because we have received a heritage for ourselves on the eastern side of the Jordan." Moses said to them in reply, "If you do this, if you march as troops before the Lord into battle and cross the Jordan in full before the Lord until he has driven his enemies out of his way, and the land is subdued before the Lord, then you may return here, free from every obligation to the Lord and to Israel, and this land will be your possession before the Lord. But if you do not do this, you will have sinned against the Lord, and you can be sure that the consequences of your sin will overtake you. Build the towns then for your families and the folds for your flocks, but fulfill what you have promised." The Gadites and the Reubenites answered Moses, "Your servants will do as my Lord commanded, while our wives and children, our livestock, and other animals remain there in the towns of Gilead." All your servants will go across as armed troops before the Lord to battle, just as my Lord says. So Moses gave this command in their regard to Eleazar the priest, to Joshua son of Nun, and to the heads of the ancestral houses of the Israelite tribes. And he said to them, if all the Gadites and Reubenites cross the Jordan with you in force before the Lord into battle, the land will be subdued before you, and you will give them Gilead as a possession. But if they will not go across in force with you before the Lord, you will bring their wives and children and livestock across before you into Canaan, and they will possess a holding among you in the land of Canaan. To this the Gadites and the Reubenites replied, we will do what the Lord has ordered your servants. We ourselves will go across in force before the Lord into the land of Canaan, but we will retain our hereditary property on this side of the Jordan. So Moses gave them the Gadites and the Reubenites, as well as the half-tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the land in which the towns and the districts of the surrounding towns. The Gadites rebuilt the cities of Dihon, Ataroth, Eror, Arnoth, Sophan, Jezer, Jogbeha, Beth Nimrah, and Beth Harnan, fortified cities and sheepfolds. The Reubenites rebuilt Heshbon, Eli, Le, Kiriathaim, Nabal, Baal Maon, names to be changed, and Sibmah. These towns which they rebuilt they called by their old names. The descendants of Machir, son of Manasseh, went to Gilead and captured it, dispossessing the Amorites who were there. Moses gave Gilead to Machir, son of Manasseh, and he settled there. Jair, a descendant of Manasseh, went and captured their tent villages and called them Havoth Jair. Nobah went and captured Kenneth with its dependencies and called it Nobah after his own name. The following are the stages by which the Israelites went out by companies from the land of Egypt under the guidance of Moses and Aaron. Moses recorded the starting points of the various stages at the direction of the Lord. These are the stages according to their starting points. They set out from Ramesses in the first month. On the 15th day of the first month, on the day after the Passover, the Israelites went forth in triumph in view of all Egypt, while the Egyptians buried those whom the Lord had struck down, every firstborn on their gods too. The Lord executed judgments. Setting out from Ramesses, the Israelites camped at Succoth. Setting out from Succoth, they camped at Etham, near the edge of the wilderness. Setting out from Etham, they turned back to Pi Hahiroth, which is opposite Baal Zephon, and they camped opposite Migdol. Setting out from Pi Hahiroth, they crossed over through the sea into the wilderness, and after they traveled a 3 days' journey in the wilderness of Etham, they camped at Marah. Setting out from Marah, they came to Elim. At Elim, there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. Setting out from Elim, they camped beside the Red Sea. Setting out from the Red Sea, they camped in the wilderness of Sin. Setting out from the wilderness of Sin, they camped at Dophkah. Setting out from Dophkah, they camped at Alush. Setting out from Alush, they camped at Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. Setting out from Rephidim, they camped in the wilderness of Sinai. Setting out from the wilderness of Sinai, they camped at Kibroth Hattavah. Setting out from Kibroth Hattavah, they camped at Hazeroth. Setting out from Hazeroth, they camped at Rithmah. Setting out from Rithmah, they camped at Rimmon Perez. Setting out from Rimmon Perez, they camped at Libnah. Setting out from Libnah, they camped at Rissah. Setting out from Rissah, they camped at Kehelatha. Setting out from Kehelatha, they camped at Mount Zephyr. Setting out from Mount Zephyr, they camped at Haradah. Setting out from Haradah, they camped at Makheloth. Setting out from Makheloth, they camped at Tehath. Setting out from Tehath, they camped at Terah. Setting out from Terah, they camped at Mithkah. Setting out from Mithkah, they camped at Hashmonah. Setting out from Hashmonah, they camped at Moserath. Setting out from Moserath, they camped at Bene-Jaakan. Setting out from Bene-Jaakan, they camped at Mount Gilead. Setting out from Mount Gidad. Setting out from Mount Gidad, they camped at Jotbathan. Setting out from Jotbathan, they camped at Abranah. Setting out from Abranah, they camped at Ezion-Geber. Setting out from Ezion-Geber, they camped in the wilderness of Zin, that is Kadesh. Setting out from Kadesh, they camped at Mount Hor on the border of the land of Edom. Aaron the priest ascended Mount Hor at the Lord's direction, and there he died in the 14th year after the departure of the Israelites from the land of Egypt, on the first day of the 5th month. Aaron was 133 years old when he died on Mount Hor. When the Canaanites, the king of Arad, who ruled over the Negeb in the land of Canaan, heard that the Israelites were coming, setting out from Mount Hor, they camped at Zalmonah. Setting out from Zalmonah, they camped at Punon. Setting out from Punon, they camped at Oboth. Setting out from Oboth, they camped at Ai-Abarim on the border of Moab. Setting out from Ai-Abarim, they camped at Didon Gad. Setting out from Didon Gad, they camped at Almon Diblathaim. Setting out from Almon Diblathaim, they camped at Abirim, in the Abirim range opposite Nebo. Setting out from the Abirim range, they camped on the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho. They camped by the Jordan on the plains of Moab, extended from Beth Jeshimoth to Abel Shittim. The Lord spoke to Moses on the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho. Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you go across the Jordan into the land of Canaan, dispossess all the inhabitants of the land before you. Destroy all their stone figures, destroy all their molten images, and demolish all their high places. When you take possession of the land and settle in it, for I have given you the land to possess, you will apportion the land among yourselves by lot, clan by clan. Assign a large heritage to a large clan, and a small heritage to a small clan. Wherever anyone's lot falls, there will his possession be. You will apportion these shares with your ancestral tribe. But if you do not dispossess the inhabitants of the land before you, those whom you will allow to remain will become barbs in your eyes and thorns in your sides, and they will harass you in the land where you live, and I will treat you as I had intended to treat them.